What a night. Joining us now with more from UFC 268, our UFC Hall of Famer, Sugar Rashad Evans. Rashad, I mean, just fantastic stuff, start to finish on this card. We're going to get through it all, beginning here with the main event. Kamaru Usman does it again, 15 straight wins now in the UFC, one shy of an all-time record. I mean, there's plenty of different ways to situate this. One is tonight, he dominates one of the biggest rooms in all of sports, but you were telling me off air he used to dominate a different room, the one you're sitting in right now. I mean, what'd you make of the fight, and how did that all go down?
Yeah, Usman used to live in this room that I'm in right now. He lived with me for about 4 years, making his way up. You know, he was my little brother, and I'm just so proud of him, man. He went out there and fought a great fight, very calculated, great pressure, spearheaded by that great jab that he had. And then his angles that he was taking made it very hard for Colby to land shots. Colby almost seemed out of range for like the first three rounds. Toward the third round, he started to find his range, and then the fourth round, you can see Colby was snapping. Colby found his range. Colby was able to contest and fight in the small spaces, which made a big difference and made a bigger way for him to land some of these big shots on Usman, because Usman had to worry about the wrestling as well. So it was a great fight, man. Great fight.
From the guest bedroom to the top of the crop, little brother is now undisputed. Not that he was disputed before, but pound for pound, perhaps the best walk in the face of the earth right now. Before we move on here, Rashad, we do sort of have to nod towards Covington for a moment. What made tonight so much more difficult for Kamaru in respect to this fight in terms of the previous fight between these two?
I mean, just the relentlessness that, you know, Covington had. He just refused to go. You know, there's a couple times he got hurt within that second round, and that was a turning point. You know, that was a moment where he can either shell up and go home, or just, you know what, pack his lunch up and say, you know what, it's going to be a long night. And he did that. You know, he earned Usman's respect, and just by being able to contest and fight in the small spaces, like I was saying before, added up big dividends for him. On the cage, I mean, on the ground, just all these different ways that he was able to contest Usman. But he was also able to land these big shots. The uppercut was able to land quite a bit. Usman was having a hard time seeing it, and it was just the timing that Colby had on it. But Colby was tough as a dog in that fight. He had his moments in the fight, and he had a good sense of when he hurt Usman, so there he put the pressure on then. But, you know, it was just Usman being such a good cagey fighter, not really showing too much when he was hurt, but you got to give it to Colby Covington. He showed that he is definitely #1 contender.
Yeah, despite the effort there, that welterweight strap isn't going anywhere anytime soon. Kamaru Usman, once again, the welterweight champion. One fight prior in the co-main event, Rose Namajunas retains her belt. A much different fight than the first time that she met with Zhang Weili. And here in the second fight, it was interesting throughout. It was hard fought throughout. Really a razor's edge separating these two throughout. When you look at the stats, when you look at the way it was scored, this was far different than the head kick a minute into round one. What did this tell you about Rose? Just the multiple manners in which she found ways to win against this same opponent, similar to the way that she did it against Joanna not long ago. A crazy knockout the first go-around, and then a hard-fought battle there in the second meeting.
Well, she showed that she can win in many different ways. You know, there's times in that fight where she just had to dig deep and really dogfight her way out of it. But, you know, she showed that she still had the superior stand-up with great angles as well, too. You know, but Weili was very strong, and it kind of surprised Rose a little bit, because in normal grappling situations, when Rose would be on top, she found herself losing against Weili. But she was able to scramble out in some and was able to land some good takedowns towards the end of the fight. But, you know, Weili was very, very tough in there, landed some big heavy shots, and she's just a strong girl and did not want to concede to anything at all, and that made it really hard for Rose down the stretch.
Doug Rose heads home smiling once again. Rashad, we got to talk about this fight that opened up the main card, and I mean, I might need a second here before we get into it. Gaethje Chandler, we set it up pre-fight, and it somehow exceeds expectations. It was like two movie villains just staring each other down, not backing down, and what a show it was. Almost all of the strikes, significant strikes. We saw cartwheels. We saw guys catching uppercuts on the button. Everything you could have asked for and more out of these two. You walk away from this one feeling what, and specifically feeling what about Gaethje and his chances at a title shot?
I'm telling you what, I'm in awe. It was one of the best fights I've ever seen in my life.
Ugh.
The way that they went back and forth, just the heart that they had. That first round was absolutely amazing. Chandler looked amazing. The way he was landing those big shots on Gaethje eating them, and then finding a way in the second round to come back and then take control and really put some pressure on Chandler, make him fight on his heels. Now, as a wrestler, fighting on your heel is not the best way, but Gaethje was also able to scramble in those grappling situations, which really made it harder for Chandler to rest upon the fact that he may have thought he was a better wrestler coming into this fight. But I mean, it was just such a great back and forth battle. But you cannot forget the gamesmanship of Michael Chandler. That to me was just, I mean, you know, he was showing a lot of moxie. He wasn't really throwing anything down the stretch, but just the bravado, just that spirit that came through at that moment was just epic, you know. And there was no quitting him. I mean, this is one of those fights that you watch and you wish that there was no loser, because tonight both these guys won big.
Gaethje said at post-fight that it was like two gladiators going at it in the center of the Coliseum, and I see no better way to describe what we saw between those two. I'd like to personally thank them both for the show that they put on. There is a through line to the three champions we spoke of here between Gaethje, Rose Namajunas, and Kamaru Usman, and it's a good friend of yours. What did the coaching say about what we saw here on Saturday night? And specifically, a man you know well here, how integral was it, and what was that through line in these three champions on Saturday night?
Well, it's very mental. You know, Trevor Whitman is one of the most cerebral coaches, but at the same time, he's a very technical coach. You know, he's one coach that makes sure these guys work the angles ad nauseum, and just, you know, really doesn't cut them a break, but, you know, holds them accountable, and they love him for it. You know, they really shine under him, and they get excited to go training. Sometimes you go to training, and it just gets monotonous and boring, but when you're training with Trevor Whitman, he keeps it exciting because you're always learning something new, and you always have something new to perfect, so you never feel like you're at that mastery level, which is good because it keeps you a student, it keeps you humble, and it keeps you hungry. And you can just see how Justin has changed, how Kamaru Usman has changed so much, and how even Rose have changed. Not only their fighting styles, you know, and their dog mentality, but just how smart they are as fighters in general. Trevor Whitman is one of the best coaches in the game.
Rashad, I am always humbled to sit here and talk about this sport with you. We appreciate your insight as always, but this one felt like a special one, my man. Plenty of fun.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Oh, and we got more coming. How about UFC 269, December 11th, T-Mobile Arena, back in Vegas. Main event with a lightweight strap on the line. Charles Oliveira, a slight dog, currently against Dustin the Diamond Poirier. Justin Gaethje, no doubt, raising his hand on the winner of those two. And by raising his hand, I mean he wants the fight. We'll get to that later. Amanda Nunes going to put her track record up once again against Juliana Pena, who hopes to see a different fate than those who walk to the octagon alongside Nunes. Leon Edwards, Jorge Masvidal also featured on that card, as will be Cody Garbrandt and fan favorite Sean O'Malley.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.